Chosen one, this is not a typical message. It is not based on speculation, emotion, or hyperbole. It is a call for urgent internal awareness. If you are listening right now, it is not a random occurrence. According to spiritual teachers and observers, you have been divinely led to this moment for a reason that extends beyond the surface of your day-to-day routine. This is a pivotal point in your spiritual trajectory, and ignoring it could carry lasting consequences. For many individuals navigating this period of global and personal uncertainty, there is a deep internal unrest and emotional exhaustion, a fog of indecision, and a quiet depletion of peace. But what many overlook is the root cause, a condition known as spiritual contamination. It's not simply stress, distraction, or burnout. It is a deeper disconnection from divine alignment, slowly eroding the foundation of purpose and clarity. The term spiritual contamination refers to the gradual infiltration of habits, environments, influences, and energies that distort one's connection to their divine path. Unlike physical contamination, this type rarely announces itself. Instead, it masks itself in the ordinary. It hides in what feels familiar: conversations, food choices, daily routines, and even personal relationships. According to spiritual commentators, the soul was never designed to operate in confusion or continual fatigue. It was designed for alignment, walking in peace, clarity, and consistent connection with divine wisdom. But when the soul is surrounded by misaligned inputs, it becomes destabilized. And for many, this destabilization has reached a critical threshold. The signs? You may feel exhausted even after sleeping. You may experience persistent anxiety despite meditation or prayer. You may feel a lack of focus or direction, even after setting clear goals. The common denominator in all of these symptoms, as identified by spiritual advisors, is an unchecked energetic and spiritual imbalance. The reality is this: not all disruption comes from major external events. In many cases, it's the subtle, repeated exposures that cause the most harm. Processed food, for example, is often cited not just for its physical effects, but for its ability to interfere with vibrational sensitivity. It's not simply a health decision, it's a spiritual one. Similarly, environments matter. The spaces we occupy, the media we consume, the people we interact with, they all carry an energetic frequency. When the majority of these influences lack spiritual alignment, the result is depletion. The spiritual atmosphere becomes toxic, and over time, the soul starts to weaken. Many individuals continue to give emotionally, mentally, spiritually, without realizing that they are doing so from an empty reservoir. The energy they expend is not being replenished. They are pouring into others, performing, producing, and engaging, while slowly becoming spiritually malnourished. This is not sustainable. Chosen one, consider the concept of spiritual leakage. Just as a leaking pipe can drain a reservoir silently, over time, spiritual leakage refers to the unnoticed loss of divine energy. It's a condition where peace is replaced by fatigue, inspiration by confusion, and purpose by numbness. And it is caused not by a single catastrophic moment, but by thousands of unnoticed compromises. These compromises may include allowing harmful conversations to go unaddressed, consuming content that disrupts your internal frequency, or staying in relationships that no longer align with your growth. Each instance may seem insignificant, but collectively, they create a burden on your spirit. Spiritual observers warn that if this process continues unaddressed, it will not simply slow progress, it will halt it entirely. The future that was designed for you, the clarity that once guided you, the internal fire that once fueled your decisions can all become inaccessible. And this disconnection is not theoretical. It is measurable in behavior, in mental health, in relationships, and in outcomes. But this message is not one of despair. It is a call to action. The process of separation is not about judgment. It is about preservation. According to spiritual voices, when God calls for separation, it is not to punish, but to protect, to realign, to restore. This may mean releasing certain habits that have become normalized but are no longer serving you. It may mean distancing yourself from individuals whose words seem kind, but whose energy consistently drains your focus. It may mean confronting the digital content you engage with and evaluating whether it truly supports your spiritual growth. This process is not easy. In fact, it can be deeply uncomfortable. But discomfort is not a sign of error. It is often the first sign of spiritual detoxification, the body, mind, and spirit adjusting to a new standard of alignment. Dietary habits may seem like an unlikely place to begin spiritual restoration, but research and spiritual analysis increasingly affirm the connection between what is consumed and how the spirit operates. Food carries energy, and its frequency can either raise or lower your vibrational state. When the body is filled with items that are misaligned, chemically processed, energetically dull, it becomes more difficult for divine messages to be received. In contrast, conscious consumption, both of food and information, can serve as a catalyst for spiritual awakening. When individuals begin to treat their bodies and minds as sacred vessels, capable of receiving and amplifying divine instruction, they position themselves for breakthrough. This shift also involves redefining what spiritual strength looks like. It's not about religious performance or outward appearances. It's about energetic clarity, internal calm, and a consistent connection with one's divine calling. And it requires daily, disciplined choices. If you felt unclear, overwhelmed, or directionless, it's likely that your spiritual atmosphere has been compromised. And while external circumstances may contribute, the root issue often lies in what has been silently tolerated: relationships that no longer support growth, routines that no longer serve a purpose, and thought patterns that no longer reflect truth. These elements function like spiritual noise. They drown out the voice of clarity, making it difficult to discern divine instruction. And in the absence of that clarity, individuals make decisions based on emotion, urgency, or pressure rather than truth. Recognizing this is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of awakening. An awakening is the first step toward renewal. Spiritual leaders are clear on this point. Your energy is sacred. It is not meant to be accessible to everything and everyone. Boundaries are not selfish. They are a requirement for sustained alignment. Not all connections are divine. Not all habits are meant to stay. And not every open door is meant to be walked through. Reclaiming your energy means intentionally cutting off what consistently drains it. This is not an act of bitterness. It is an act of obedience to your higher calling. Spiritual clarity comes not only from prayer, but from purification, from eliminating the influences that distort truth. This may require solitude. It may require silence. It may require starting over in areas that once felt secure. But it is a necessary step toward full spiritual restoration. What many are facing is not a crisis of productivity. It is a spiritual siege. The fatigue, the emotional roller coaster, the repeated sense of setback, all are signs of a prolonged spiritual battle. Spiritual commentators note that this battle is often subtle. It does not always arrive with drama or chaos. Instead, it disguises itself in distraction, busyness, and emotional turbulence. It appears as overcommitment, as constant comparison, as endless consumption of information. But this war is not meant to destroy. It is meant to reveal, to uncover what needs to be healed, to force the soul to reassess, to realign, and to recommit. The solution lies not in doing more, but in doing less with greater intention. It lies in returning to spiritual discipline, to sacred space, and to divine simplicity. Chosen one, This is not the end of the message. It is only the beginning. What you are experiencing is not a random season of hardship. It is a wake-up call, a spiritual redirection designed to save what still remains. The path forward begins with truth, continues with discipline, and leads to restoration. Stay with us as we continue in part 2, where we will examine the critical importance of spiritual detoxification, the connection between sacred stillness and divine revelation, and the final call to realign with your original design. Chosen one. The healing you are looking for is not just physical or emotional. It is spiritual. And it requires detoxification, not through rituals of tradition, but through focused alignment with divine frequency. Spiritual detoxification begins with subtraction, not addition. Many mistakenly believe that healing requires doing more prayer, more fasting, more studying. But the first step is often about removing what blocks clarity, not piling on more content or tasks. This includes relationships that consistently reintroduce old wounds. It includes thought loops that replay past failures. It includes media and conversations that subtly affirm fear, shame, or self-doubt. Removing these blocks doesn't mean you become rigid or isolated. It means you become clear. Clarity is the first reward of spiritual detox, and clarity leads to power. Stillness is not a luxury for the spiritually elite. It is a requirement for divine instruction. The reason many cannot hear clearly is not because they lack faith. It is because they lack silence. In today's hyper-connected world, spiritual stillness is an act of resistance. When you turn off constant notifications, avoid endless scrolling, and pause from reacting to the world's chaos, you create a sacred vacuum, a space where truth can echo and divine instructions can land. Spiritual guides describe stillness as the frequency of heaven. It is the environment where guidance becomes audible. It is where strategies are received, assignments are refined, and identity is reinforced. Without stillness, noise governs. With stillness, spirit leads. Chosen one, your environment matters. Not only your physical space, but the emotional and energetic structure you allow around you. Creating sacred space doesn't require building a physical altar. It means intentionally protecting your personal atmosphere. It means defining boundaries for what and who is allowed into your field. Start by designating a specific area in your home for spiritual alignment. This could be a corner, a chair, or even a walk outside. The key is intentionality. Over time, your body will associate that space with focus and peace. That association becomes sacred. Next, cleanse the atmosphere. This doesn't have to be mystical. Open the windows. Burn incense or light a candle. Play instrumental music or sound frequencies known to promote healing. Speak truth aloud in your space. Say, only energy aligned with divine peace may enter here. This declaration, repeated consistently, begins to create energetic boundaries that protect your clarity and sustain your alignment. Spiritual authorities are in growing agreement. A global energetic shift is already underway. This shift is not just political or environmental. It is spiritual in nature, affecting systems, mindsets, and individuals on a fundamental level. This shift is not neutral. It is disruptive by design. Its goal is not to destroy, but to refine. It is bringing to the surface everything that was hidden, misaligned, or falsely elevated. The systems of the world, economic, relational, spiritual, are shaking. And this shaking is not a punishment. It is a preparation. For the chosen ones, this shift demands internal readiness, not just external awareness. Those who are emotionally scattered or spiritually unanchored will struggle to adapt. But those who are clear, centered, and obedient will navigate the transition with discernment and grace. One of the most countercultural messages in this era is this: Obedience is a spiritual superpower in a world that prizes independence, self-expression, and boundless exploration. The concept of obedience, especially to divine instruction, can feel outdated or restrictive. But for those seeking spiritual protection and clarity, it is essential. Obedience does not mean perfection. It means responsiveness. It means responding quickly to inner instructions. When you're prompted to pause, rest, speak, disconnect, or relocate, it means doing so without delay or negotiation. The future is not secured through intellect alone. It is secured through alignment. And alignment is maintained through consistent obedience. A major risk in this era is remaining exposed spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, while believing everything will remain manageable. That belief is no longer safe. Remaining passively exposed to the world's chaos while delaying spiritual alignment is equivalent to standing in a storm with no shelter. The longer one remains uncovered, the more susceptible they become to external interference. Spiritual exposure does not always manifest as disaster. Sometimes it appears as chronic fatigue, delayed purpose, emotional numbness, or recurring confusion. These are early signs that protection has lapsed and boundaries need to be reinforced. Your soul was not designed to process all information. It was not meant to carry the weight of every global issue, every relational conflict, or every trending crisis. Filtering your intake is not ignorance. It is stewardship. Chosen one, now is the time to reclaim authority over your life, not in rebellion, but in sacred alignment. Many spiritual thinkers agree. Spiritual authority is not just for pastors, prophets, or religious leaders. It is a divine inheritance for every individual willing to steward it with integrity. You reclaim authority when you decide that peace is not negotiable. You reclaim authority when you treat your focus as sacred. You reclaim authority when you say no to patterns that once drained you, and yes to disciplines that revive you. Your words carry weight. Your thoughts construct atmosphere. Your decisions determine alignment. When you realize the power of your daily choices, you move from survival to spiritual rulership. For many, this season has introduced a unique sense of isolation. Relationships are shifting. Social energy has decreased. Previous environments no longer feel aligned. But this isolation, while uncomfortable, is not a punishment. It is positioning. Spiritual solitude is often where the most significant revelations occur. It is in the quiet seasons where vision sharpens, voices clarify, and false dependencies are dismantled. While the world pushes for visibility and noise, spiritual growth often demands withdrawal and silence. The ones who obey the call to go inward now will become the leaders who speak with weight later. Solitude is not exile, it is elevation. And it is temporary. Pressure is not always the sign of failure. Often, it signals proximity to purpose. Just as physical muscles grow under tension, spiritual assignments activate under pressure. The discomfort you may be feeling emotionally, relationally, or mentally is likely connected to a spiritual initiation. This is the moment when old patterns no longer fit, old environments no longer nourish, and old identities begin to unravel. It can feel disorienting, but it is necessary. You are not breaking down. You are being prepared. Many are feeling the urge to shift careers and relationships, move cities, or redefine their priorities. These are not impulsive decisions. They are responses to divine summons that follow them with wisdom, not fear. Chosen one, your journey is not only about you. It is about the healing and elevation of entire lineages. Spiritual perspectives often emphasize that certain individuals are born not only with purpose, but with assignment. You may be the first in your family to pursue spiritual alignment, emotional healing, or inner mastery. That is not coincidence. It is calling. Your choices now echo across generations. What you break, your descendants will not have to carry. What you align, they will inherit as clarity. You are a bridge between what has been and what is to come. You are not simply managing your life. You are reforming your lineage. This message is not timeless. It is time-sensitive. There's a spiritual urgency that cannot be ignored. The next phase of global and personal events will not wait for everyone to be ready. Those who delay alignment will find themselves overwhelmed. But those who respond now quietly, faithfully, consistently, will remain grounded even as others unravel. This is not fear-based motivation. It is clarity-based preparation. The next season will reward the spiritually prepared, not the publicly visible. As we conclude this two-part message, the directive is clear. Withdraw from noise that distracts and confuses. Purge environments and habits that pollute your clarity. Strengthen routines that reinforce spiritual order. Guard your peace like the treasure it is. Follow the still voice, even when it leads away from what's familiar. The world is shifting quickly. Do not anchor yourself to systems that are collapsing. Anchor yourself to the divine design that called you from the beginning. You were not born to drift. You were not born to blend. You were born to build. And what you build now in silence, in discipline, in alignment, will stand when everything else shakes. Chosen one, the message you have now received in full is not just information. It is an instruction. Not just guidance, but a sacred commission. You are not simply being warned. You are being positioned. The urgency that brought you here is not a passing emotional moment. It is the echo of divine timing pressing against your awareness. You are here because you were selected to know. And once you know, you are accountable for what you do with that knowledge. This final chapter is about application. It is about transformation through action. The world is not waiting for another awakened soul who only consumes wisdom. It is waiting for action takers, individuals who know how to translate divine messages into movement, structure, discipline, and leadership. It is important to recognize the heaviness you may be feeling at this moment is not closure. It is a spiritual threshold. You are not finishing a message. You are standing at the edge of a decision. The choice before you is whether you will return to comfort or step into consecration. Returning means continuing to compromise your focus, energy, and time. It means shrinking into familiarity, even if it no longer serves you. It means postponing transformation for temporary ease. But stepping forward means entering a process that may be uncomfortable, but will be undeniable in its reward. It means separating from what you once needed in order to become who you were always designed to be. This is the threshold between information and transformation. Every spiritual message becomes a seed. Whether that seed grows depends not on how deeply you felt it, but on how deliberately you respond to it. Heaven does not reward those who are simply moved, it rewards those who are moved into obedience. What that obedience looks like will vary. For one person, it may mean silence. For another, it may mean restructuring a daily routine. For another, still, it may involve ending an assignment, shifting a career, or embracing an unfamiliar location. But what is consistent is this: the instruction is already known to you. It is the quiet direction that has been surfacing repeatedly in your thoughts. It is the next step that keeps returning to your awareness. You don't need new information. You need follow-through. Chosen one, divine observation is now upon your steps, not for punishment but for promotion. Your response to this moment will determine your alignment in the next. One of the most common misunderstandings among awakened individuals is the concept of delay. Many assume that because they haven't seen the outcome yet, they must have missed something. But in divine design, delay does not mean denial. It often means development. However, There is a difference between divine delay and personal disobedience. Divine delay is when heaven holds something until you're ready. Disobedience delay is when the blessing was released, but your lack of preparation made it unsustainable. That is why this message came when it did. It is an intervention, a disruption, a spiritual rerouting to ensure you are not bypassed because of a lack of readiness. It is a call to integrity, to live in such a way that your internal order matches the weight of what you are praying for. No more waiting for the perfect conditions. The time is now. The shift is live. And what's next is already moving. In the previous season, the world rewarded performance, appearance, production. But in this emerging era, none of those things will sustain peace or progress. The only currency that carries true spiritual weight now is alignment. That is, being exactly where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what you've been assigned to do, and maintaining a spiritual posture of clarity and availability. You are not being asked to be the best. You are being asked to be aligned. When you are aligned, your words carry resonance. Your silence becomes power. Your presence becomes healing. Your decisions carry divine timing. And in this season, those who carry alignment will be called upon often, quietly, to be the stabilizers in environments that begin to unravel. Chosen one, this message may not go viral. It may not make headlines, but it will resonate deeply with a specific group, the hidden ones. These are the individuals who have been tucked away in silence, who have been stripped of distractions, delayed from visibility, and pulled out of the systems they once served. They have not been forgotten. They have been formed. This is their season of reintroduction, but not as who they used to be, as who they truly are. And if you recognize this within yourself, know this. Your isolation was not exile, it was elevation. You were being insulated, so that when the shift came, you would not be swallowed by the chaos. You would remain grounded, disciplined, clear. You are being called forward, not to be seen, but to be sent. It must be said plainly. There are consequences for spiritual negligence, not because of punishment, but because of principle. When divine instruction is ignored, clarity erodes, confusion multiplies, cycles repeat, opportunities pass, relationships suffer, and internal confidence begins to rot under the weight of delayed obedience. If this message is heard but not honored, the energy it carried will fade, and in its place, there will be silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that signals disconnection. Cannot carry the mantle of divine alignment and simultaneously reject its requirements. To be chosen is not just about favor, it is about formation, about following instruction when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, and unrecognized. That is what separates the remnant from the crowd. If you're wondering whether this message truly applies to you, consider the following signs. You feel an internal urgency to simplify your life. You're becoming sensitive to environments that once felt neutral. You're losing interest in surface-level conversations or shallow routines. You feel called to stillness, withdrawal, or increased intentionality. You're noticing repeated instructions surfacing in your thoughts. If any of these are present, you are already shifting. The spiritual transition has begun. The only question is whether you will flow with it or resist it. Flowing does not mean rushing. It means trusting the direction, even when the details aren't clear. Your alignment is not just about your success, it's about global orchestration. Every obedient person becomes a stabilizing node in the collective, spiritual frequency of the planet. That means your clarity helps others find theirs. Your obedience opens doors not just for yourself, but for entire regions, families, and generations. Your silence shifts atmospheres. Your discipline breaks cycles. Your healing makes healing possible for those who come after you. This is the prophetic purpose of alignment. It is not for applause, it is for transformation. There may be a voice whispering, "You should have done this sooner." But that voice is not divine. It is fear wearing the mask of shame. The truth is, you're on time. You're not behind, you're becoming. And everything you've walked through, every delay, every misstep, every lesson has been part of the forming. The awakening is happening now because you are finally prepared to carry it. And now, with this awareness, you no longer walk into the future blind. You walk into it armed with truth, strategy, and presence. To close, here are clear, practical instructions to begin your walk into full alignment. Designate a sacred space in your home. Commit to visiting it daily, even if only for 10 minutes. Of silence. Audit your environment. Remove anything that consistently drains your energy or brings confusion. This includes digital content, objects, foods, and conversations. Write down the repeated instruction you've been receiving, even if it's uncomfortable or vague. Begin to act on it in small, daily steps. Limit spiritual multitasking. Stop mixing too many voices. Choose clarity over constant input. Create a rhythm. A new routine that supports your focus, health, and spiritual sensitivity. Speak alignment aloud. Words are power. Every day say, "I walk in divine order with peace, clarity, and obedience." Chosen one, the shift is no longer approaching. It is here. It has arrived quietly, like morning light breaking through a window, subtle but irreversible. Those who are attuned have already felt it. The atmosphere is different. The weight is different. The time is now. This is your confirmation, your release, your moment to walk out of spiritual drift and into divine direction. You are not here by chance. You are not being warned to fear. You are being summoned to build, carry, and lead. Not with noise, but with wisdom, with presence, with power. And as you walk forward, may this message echo behind you, not as a whisper of warning, but as a foundation of truth beneath your every step. This is your moment. This is your alignment. This is your assignment. And it begins now.